Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shade Tree, another video. And today we're working on the Tahoe. We're out here and as you can see in the thumbnail and the title, we got a box of goodies from Amazon, and we're going to be changing out this old stock cold air, or well, air intake, and we're going to be putting a really cheap Amazon intake on here. So let's get to taking this one off. So pretty much you're just going to need really a flathead screwdriver for the most part. You're going to want to take these clamps off on each side, and then you got a clamp up here on your throttle body, if you can see that or not. So I'm going to start getting these clamps taken off. Here's some pups in the background. They're outside enjoying this beautiful weather. Alright, so that's got our hose off there. To get to that clamp there, you're gonna want to take this engine cover off. So let me grab a socket and a wrench, and we'll get that off real quick. Alright, so I've got an 8. Of mankind. So we're just going to leave the bolt in there, set that over here. So then, as you can see, that gives us access to a throttle body to be able to loosen this. And so, just like that, literally 2 screws, the majority of your work is done. Here you've got your mass airflow sensor. You're gonna want to make sure you retain that. I'll have to take a look at this kit that I bought. It's a super cheap kit on Amazon. It was literally like, I think 55 bucks. So I don't really think it's gonna be a huge performance adder, but I think anything helps more than that restrictive air box. We'll just take the whole unit off and just let it hang here. We'll pop that clip back down, and we'll just set it here to the side. So now we're going to need to work on our air box. It's really not much more complicated. You've got a screw over there, you've got a screw over here, you got a screw right there, one right there. That takes the top of your air box off. And then you should have some screws down inside. So let's get this top off real quick. Now these are Phillips heads, so, but they're pretty wide, so you could probably use both. Now if you're ever just changing your air filter and you're keeping the stock, don't crank these down so tight that you're not going to be able to get them back off, because that could cause problems for you later on. There we go. Now these screws don't come out, so don't freak out. Like if you can't get them out, they don't come out, they stay. So. And there's our old filter. Looks like it needed changed anyway. This thing had 179,000 miles. I'd say this filter's probably seen a lot of them. Alright, so there's not any bolts inside of here. It looks like it has, yeah, just the little pop rib nuts, or the rubber popper things. So that just pops out. So there you go, in like 5 minutes, and hopefully I'm able to trim it down so y'all don't have to sit there the whole time, but in like 5 minutes or 6 minutes, you've got your entire air intake off. Now, if you're ever gonna walk away, be sure you cover up your throttle body. You don't want anything getting in there if you're not around. I'm gonna be here this whole time, so I'll be standing here, so I'm not too worried about it. But always make sure you're keeping an eye on that. Let's get this intake out. of the box from Amazon. Take a look at it. It should be pretty simple, but we'll take a look at the instructions, see what they say. Some of the reviews said the instructions weren't that great, that they told you to trim your fan shroud. I don't think we're going to have to. Some of the other people that I read said you don't have to, so we're going to try to get away without doing that. Going to tidy up a few things now that we've got all this room in here, clean, wipe off a few things, and then we'll be back whenever we're taking a look at this $55 cold air intake from Amazon. Alright guys, so here's everything that it comes with in the kit. Of course, you've got a filter. It's not terrible. I mean, it's not K&N, but it'll do you for a little bit. You got your air tube here. It's got a few brackets welded onto it. Haven't got to that point in the instructions yet, but you can see it's very smooth. Now, the biggest thing about air intakes that people get confused is that you don't have to buy a $500 cold air intake. It's going to do the same thing that a $50 intake in my case, or a $100 intake, or whatever does. It just draws more air. The biggest thing you want to do is have a nice filter, which, like I said, this one doesn't come with the best. You could definitely help yourself out with getting a better filter, and I probably will. But this tube is really what does everything for you. It reduces the friction or the obstruction of air coming into your throttle body. More air means more power. So don't think that you have to spend a ton of money on a cold air intake. Now, some of those big name brands, they're awesome. I've had them, and I've liked them. They've been good to me. But for this truck, or this Tahoe, I didn't want to spend a ton of money. So this is what I went with. I found it on, I actually wasn't going to even do a cold air intake, but because this one was so inexpensive, I figured I might as well go ahead and do it. So like I said, you've got your tube, you've got your filter, you've got some clamps. Those are pretty cheap made too. You've got some couplers. This one's going to come off of your throttle body. This one's probably going to mount up to your filter and to your tube. And then you have this box. It's an air box, air dam, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't assembled. I actually was having a little bit hard time figuring out which way it went, so I went ahead and put it together off camera. It's just got some really tiny screws with some lock washers and some nuts. I mean, they're Phillips head screws. You can only get them so tight. But anyway, it came with that. It's got a little bit more hardware. I'm assuming this is going to be for those brackets on the tube. I'll get to that whenever we're doing it. And then this is just going to be some like some rubber stripping to go on the airbox, I'm assuming. So let's go ahead, get up to the front, and start trying to piece this thing together. Okay, so be sure you read your instructions all the way. I got up here, and I started trying to get this in here, and as you can see, it just hangs. Oh, by the way, this piece of thing, this is called a noise dampening. I'm going to tighten that bolt up on the back, but evidently this does something, so that's where it goes. So in the instructions, it actually tells you, and I didn't read it because I don't pay attention, to remove these bolts holding the tray in. So those are 10mm. We're going to go ahead and get those out, and then once I have everything started, then we'll be back. Alright, this is where we're at. So we've got our box in. You actually retain 3 of the bolts off the factory intake bracket plate that's at the bottom. You can see how much more airflow we're going to have. Sorry about the string, but you can see how much more airflow we're going to have. Some folks get nervous about this. Listen, unless you're going to be driving down through the river or something in one of these, I wouldn't worry about it too much. We've got this little gasket material on here. This one here is a little bit too long, so we'll just come in here with some snips. We'll clip that off. Our tube sits in here, our mass airflow sensor, and then our filter sits in here, and then our mass airflow sensor, tube, and all that. So let's get our tube put on here next. So I've already got my tube preset here. I've got the short end. Hey, see you later. I've got it says to put the short end of the 90 close to the motor, and then make sure you always go ahead and put your clamps on. And a big pet peeve of mine with clamps, make sure you can get to your screws later on. Alright, So let's go ahead and get this on here. All right, guys, so I went ahead and just finished. Too much tinkering and moving around to really show you guys a lot. I'll kind of go over what I did, but it wasn't really hard. It was just, it's hot, I'm sweaty, and it was kind of annoying. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with the kit. I mean, you can tell it fits a very wide range of vehicles on the 5.3 platform. So let's take a look at it and I'll show you what I think, or tell you what I think. So remember I said that someone had mentioned in a review that they needed to trim their fan shroud. Yeah, I can see why they would think that. I mean, but man, it's barely touching. Like, even if that rubs, it's not gonna rub through the thickness of that boot, I don't think. And I mean, that's it. It's really just hitting the seam of where the boot is molded. So I'm gonna leave it for now. If it becomes a problem, I'll trim it. This coupler itself, I wasn't really happy with. This radius here on this, or the diameter here on this one, was very round. But probably from shipping and getting heated up and hot in boxes, this one was kind of ovaled, so it was kind of hard to get this to seal around the throttle body. So you want to make sure, like if you get one, you want to make sure that it's covering the throttle body on all sides. And I've got my finger underneath there. Make sure your engine's cool when you do this. I've got my finger there, and I don't feel like there's any leaks. If I hear any leaks, I'm pretty sure that's going to be where it's going to come from. The tube, it kind of goes in an angle that you wouldn't expect. You want to make sure that your coupler is kind of canted up, and then the radius here comes up and then back down. I was thinking it would come more towards me, like rotated this way and be straight into the box, but that wasn't the case. Had a little bit of trouble getting this clamp to seal because this coupler is for the outside diameter of the tube, whereas the outside diameter of the mass airflow sensor is significantly smaller. So you want to make sure that your tube isn't too close to this clamp, because it's not going to cinch down on the mass airflow sensor. But I think I have it now. It uses the factory clamp from the mass airflow sensor that goes into the filter housing, and then they supplied another clamp for the actual filter. It's I mean, it's a pretty sturdy kit. I don't know if you can see down there, there is the noise dampening, I guess it's like a bushing. I had it on backwards, had to flip it around to where the rubber piece is facing out of the box. And then there's a bracket that just mounts over top of that, and then you just have a washer and a nut. Both of those are 10mm nuts. There's one on the inside here and there, and you just cinch those down. And that's pretty much where the rigidity comes from this. As you saw, I had to trim this piece off. So that's fine. That's not a big deal. But overall, I'm actually pretty pleased with the kit. For 55 bucks, I can't complain. The tube alone is worth that, I think. And then if I wanted to, I could actually, some companies actually sell their airbox separate. They're still like $150 for an airbox, which I think is stupid. But that is their main gimmick, or their main sales point, is that their airbox, you know, defines the air and where it routes from, and that's how they get more air. But I think this is gonna work just fine. I'm pretty pleased with it. I don't know. Let's crank it up and see what it sounds like. See if we can tell a difference. Alright, so let's get this thing cranked up. I didn't remove the negative battery terminal. The instructions say to do, and anytime you're working on a motor, you probably should. Honestly, just forgot. I got into it and didn't. Let's turn our air off for just a second. All right. No check engine lights. I can hear the throttle body. It's definitely sucking more air. So there you go. It's definitely sucking more air. Like I said, is it going to give me anything performance-wise? Is it going to give me better gas mileage? I don't know. I don't want to lock my keys up, so give me a second. I don't know. It may not. The Amazon kit says that it'll give you 10 to 12 more horsepower and better fuel economy. I mean, I have to imagine that compared to all of that goofiness, that it has to get better airflow, and that's kind of what I'm going for. Whether it does anything or not, I don't know, but we'll see. Who knows? But that's going to be it for today, guys. This is a cheap Amazon cold air intake. I'll put a link to it in the description box down below. I hope this video isn't too long for you. If you enjoy this kind of stuff, hit that thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. We've got a lot more Amazon goodies coming. Maybe something to do with these and those, and just stuff coming that we're going to be doing to the Tahoe. I really am enjoying this ride. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I picked this thing up. It's super clean. If you saw my last video, if not, go check it out. It'll be in the iCard somewhere, but yeah, hit that thumbs up. We'll see you next time, guys. Y'all stick with me. We'll see what we can do. Thanks, guys. God bless. I got a mess to clean up.